India Walton, thank you. And of course, our thoughts and prayers are with you in your battles up in the western part of the state. Right now, brothers and sisters, we are pleased to have with us for our inspirational word today, Minister Richard X III, the Associate Minister of the Riverside Church here in the city.
In the name of the beneficent, the merciful, the loving and the kind, the creator of the universe that calls us toward freedom, who has sent us messengers, teachers, prophets, and leaders who have made this pathway more clear, despite the violence of anti-blackness. We thank this God of freedom for messengers and teachers and prophets like Jesus. We thank this God for messengers and teachers like our dear brother Malcolm. We thank this God for messengers and teachers like the Reverend Al Sharpton. We're thankful, and we are also thankful, and I can say this because I'm from Buffalo, the new mayor-elect of Buffalo. On November 12th, 1764, Captain Nathaniel Munford set sail. With the blessing of the still forming states of America, his crew of 15, they set sail out of Newport, Rhode Island with gold on their minds. They were set on a journey, an exchange of sorts that they believed would set up their families for a future of financial security and prosperity. After almost a full year navigating the sea, in January of 1765, Mumford and his crew finally reached their destination, the shores of the western coast of Africa. It was there that they proceeded to purchase their gold. The once empty ship was now filled, bustling, overflowing with precious, breathing merchandise that was sure to change not only the lives of the crew aboard, but strangely even the merchandise itself. The cargo for this ship, this floating marketplace, was black bodies. And the name of this ship was Hope. 257 years removed from this voyage, black bodies are still on slave ships called Hope. Still chained, still bound in body and mind, still slave to a thing called hope. Friends and kin, I'm not referring to this historical moment to disavow hope in our Creator, nor hope in our people, nor hope in ourselves. But like the precious breathing merchandise of Captain Mumford's sadistic ship, some of us have remained bound to hope in America. Amen. I fear I no longer share this hope. I fear far too many of us and far too often have become chained to this kind of hope that rests inside the very thing that we have been called to transform. Instead of hope that overthrows the powers and principalities of this world, we have often fallen into a continuation or a dependency or representation into the powers and principalities of this world. Our ancestors in the faith would sing about this type of hope as a sinking sand, an impossible foundation to build the imaginative capabilities of black flourishing and imagining. Because if our hope demands the state, and the everyday functions of the state demand black death, then this kind of hope is a cannibalistic commitment. Theorist Lauren Berlant would name this cannibalistic commitment as cruel optimism, for it is a hope that requires us to desire the very thing that kills us. Yeah. Who taught us to have hope in empire? Moses didn't teach us that. Yeah. Shipra and Miriam didn't teach us that. Esther didn't teach us that when she stood against empire. The prophets didn't teach us that when they stood against empire. Jesus didn't teach us that when he stood face to face with Caesar, who lied to us. Yeah. And told us that having hope in this slave ship called America was a virtuous thing, a religious duty, a Christian sacrifice. Who tricked you? This kind of hope, a misplaced hope, a maligned hope, a sinking hope, a cruel hope is nothing more than an invitation to a seat at the table for a feast where black flesh are on the menu. Whoa. Hope then is this hope is just a laxative. Yeah. It's how we relieve ourselves of the gut-wrenching anxiety of participating in a system that is inherently death-dealing. This hope is an enchantment. It is an incantation we chant to ourselves in what Rebecca Wilcox names as distorted mirrors every morning to savage the shattered fragments of black sanity. This hope is a fairy tale. Yeah. It is a story we whisper to our children and the generations after us to allow them to sleep at night believing that the monsters we face aren't under their bed as well. This hope is a noose. It is a startling, exfoliating experience that leaves black bodies hanging on the everyday ropes of civil society. Ultimately, this hope is killing us. Yeah. How many corpses of otherwise, of radical and creative alternatives lay dead at the hands of this kind of hope? By this I mean we must wrestle with how hope demands we constrict and conform our thinking inside the very structures we should be seeking to abolish. How many dreams of otherwise ways to imagine politics and decentralized power lay dead because of hope in this country's brand of democracy? How many dreams of otherwise ways to practice communal accountability lay dead because of hope in law enforcement? How many dreams of otherwise ways to form communities of restoration and repair lay dead because of hope in prisons? How many dreams of otherwise ways to create networks of mutual aid and care lay dead because of hope in capitalism? How many dreams of otherwise ways to love one's own flesh and body lay dead because of hope in gender normativity? No, we must embrace hopelessness, not as a feeling of despair or nihilism, but a critical framework that begins where redemption narratives in America ends. We must live every day with a hopelessness in America. Its systems, its capacity to bring about black liberation. We must embrace hopelessness as a prophetic gift from God that allows us to begin to tell the truth about the pervasiveness of anti-blackness. There is no hope in America. And this is where our hope begins. This is where our joy begins. That's it. This is where our organizing begins. That's it. The faith of our foreparents would call it a hope against hope. A hope in our Creator against hope in America. A hope in our communities against hope in America. A hope in ourselves against hope in America. The struggle with this argument is that it might not make you feel better. It's not that, inspirational. It won't directly ease your fears about your black child's safety. It won't allow what Van Jones called a deep collective sigh of relief when the machinations of empire exchange hands from one state agent to another, even when that state agent is black. It certainly won't help you close out a good sermon, but it will keep you from sinking into something worse than nihilism, and that is white optimism. In conclusion, I point toward Captain Mumford's slave ship once again. Because in that trip back from the West Coast, something strange happened. Somehow, some way, the cargo got loose from their chains. And all hell broke loose.
Minister Richard X. III, Associate Minister of the Riverside Church, thank you for those inspirational words. Also, brothers and sisters, remember Wednesday night, September 29th is Crisis Night here at National Action Network. It'll start at 5:45. You can get all the Zoom-in information online. And then on Thursday night, September 30th, is legal night here at National Action Network. Both nights, Wednesday and Thursday, the 29th and 30th. Make sure you get all the sign-in information online at nationalactionnetwork.net. Right now, the Change Ensemble.
I'm so glad trouble don't last always. I'm so glad trouble don't last always. I'm so glad trouble don't last always. Trouble don't last
Ensemble under the direction of Minister Tyrone Richardson, our musical director, further accompanied by Chris Collins. Brothers and sisters, right now, if you're here, I want you to get on your feet. If you're at home, I want you to put your hands together for the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. 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 Fist bump the person next to you, tell them you love them. Every Saturday morning we try to come tell you that change will not happen by magic. It will not drop out of the sky. It will not happen because you clap your hands and praise. It will happen by organizing and struggling and going against all odds. Even when they say you are going to be defeated, you got to fight anyhow. Even when they say you're less than what is best, you have to fight anyhow. And if you keep on fighting, if you keep on organizing, if you keep on struggling, your change will come.
Your change will come. Your change. Do you believe it? Your change will come. Your change. Oh, change will
I was raised in Brooklyn, New York on welfare and food stamps. They told me in school I would never be nobody. But I kept on believing, and I didn't have some kind of fantasy. I had a strategy. Some of y'all have social fantasies, but you need to have a social strategy. And as I learned at the foot of those that walked with the generations ahead of me, Dr. King and others, I learned that if you hold out, if you won't let go, weeping may endure for a night, but joy will come in the morning and your change will
Your
come.
change will come. Your change. So that you know it. Your change will come. Your change.
saw many years ago.
Yeah.
And they introduced me to a young man who was an heir of the Walton family. And the Walton family owns the Walmarts all over the world. They are very conservative. They're on the right wing. And this was many years ago, but I thank God that I lived long enough that up north and west in Buffalo, God took another person, took a mother, a nurse, a community organizer, didn't have billions of dollars, didn't have the machine on her side, but knocked on doors and worked in the streets and walked with those that no one would walk with, marched with us in Washington every time we went. There is going to be written in American history, there's another Walton. There's a Walton against the Waltons. And come November, they will be the next mayor of Buffalo, New York. If you hold on, Sister Walton, your change will come. National Action Network Change Ensemble, give them a hand. Give them a hand. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally for you that are here at the House of Justice, 106 145th Street in the Village of Harlem. And you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York, and you watching us on various social media platforms around the country, and we'll be on Impact TV in a moment. We are happy to be with you another Saturday to give our report on where the action is. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. Our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richards. Let me say that we are happy. I see they're not here. I wanted to wish a happy birthday. I heard it announced earlier. Gwen Carr is speaking in the South. She's here every Saturday. Our mother, Eric Garner, wishing her a great birthday where she is. On tomorrow, let me get the announcements out the way because I have a lot to cover in this next hour. On tomorrow, we will have, I'll be preaching at St. Luke Baptist Church in the morning, 103 Morningside. They're going in their new edifice, Reverend Shane Hilliard. And that was our friend. He was one of the original board members of National Action Network, Reverend Johnny McCann. And he fought to keep that church alive, and I'm going to be preaching there, going in the new edifice tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Reverend Shane Hilliard is the succeeding pastor. I'll be there with Madam McCann and the St. Luke Church. Meet us there as we remember Johnny and open up this new edifice for St. Luke's. And they told me they was going to have Bishop Tyrone Richardson meet me. I said, who is that? We'll talk about that off the radio. Also, don't forget, now, you know, we did a lot of things this week, and I'm going to get into it in a minute, but as you know, I went down to Texas and to deal with this question of what they're doing to our brothers and sisters from Haiti. And I'm going to deal with that tonight and tomorrow on Politics Nation. Make sure you watch it, 5 o'clock on MSNBC. I'm going to have Congresswoman Yvette Clarke on. I'm going to have other members of Congress It is a disgrace what they're doing and not doing. And I'm gonna deal with that tonight and tomorrow. Also, Congresswoman Adams about HBCUs and other things. So watch Politics Nation on MSNBC at 5 o'clock. In fact, Sister Walton has been on the show, and I don't know, funny thing happened. Some told me it might have been the spirit that Minister Richard was talking about. It might have been one of them funny monsters in the bed, but some told me she's gonna be on again before the election in November. I don't know. I'll talk to Minister Richard and find out if that's some monster or something or not. Give him a hand, Minister Richard. And we certainly enjoyed him, and he broke that thing down, because a lot of y'all, some of us had to wrestle with getting off dope, and some of y'all need to wrestle getting off hope. Yeah. Both of them are addictive. And he broke that down. I really enjoyed him. And then I was asking Dominique, I said, now, Minister Richard, I'd not heard before. Do y'all have background in him? No, but he's good, Minister Stephen Marshall got it. But after he opened up and went from Jesus to Malcolm and put me in that category, he can come in and say what he wants. Let's find out whenever he's available. Yo, he might be from Riverside, but he knows the black church tradition. If you pump up the pastor, you get free reign. You know, we ego suckers like that, you know. Give him another hand, though. We really enjoy it. Let me repeat, as Attorney Hardy has said, that on Wednesday night is crisis night. You that have a crisis that you want to try and get addressed. Our regional director, Brother Perkison, Derek Perkison, has initiated this. And what we're trying to do is service people in the community. Rallies are, people get up and come on Saturday mornings, and thousands listen to us on the air and social media. But people have individual problems. And sometimes you need to just direction. Sometimes we build our movements so high that they don't deal with the things on the ground. Movements are from the ground up. I don't always have a problem that is on a congressional level. I may want to have a problem like the light on the street corner of my house, or some other issue or some other matter. So I want us to deal with crisis night 5:45 on Wednesday night. Then Thursday night, you that have legal problems, legal concerns, and don't know how to pursue them or to follow them up, all you have to do is come and legal night. Attorney Hardy has started this. It's now in our chapters and various chapters around the country. It's on Zoom, both Wednesday night and on Thursday night. And Thursday night, last Thursday in every month, we've been doing legal night for 11 years, is the last one of the year. October's the last one. So Thursday night, you can Zoom in. Go to www.nashactionnetwork.net and you can get all the Zoom information. And for you that are older and don't know how to Zoom, this is not Aretha's song, Who's Zooming Who. This is technology. Get your daughter, your niece, somebody to teach you how to do Zoom. Because some of y'all be done blew a circuit out in your house trying to Zoom. But we want y'all to be participatory. I also want to give a great hand to Sister Naya A., who gave a great statement this morning, and I want to give her and Ashley and our huddle a big hand. Give them a big hand. We'll now welcome our Impact Television family watching us all over the world. I want to commend Huddle. They went and marched yesterday, had a rally yesterday in front of the Haitian consulate here in New York. Before I get into that, I was waiting on Impact to come on. A lot of you that are watching us on Impact, our national black gospel television station, let me tell you something. When we fought historically for the right to vote, and we fought to try and penetrate this system to move it toward change. When I was born, most blacks were Republican. My mother and father were Republican. My Bishop Washington, was Republican. The reason that they were Republican was because that was the party of Abe Lincoln. And that had passed 2 or 3 generations from Lincoln all the way until after Eisenhower. In the early 60s, a man was elected named John Kennedy, who was a Democrat. And John Kennedy started saying more moderate stuff. He didn't get all the way over there, but he was more moderate and more inclusionary than his opponent, a Republican named Richard Nixon. Nixon felt, because he had Jackie Robinson, the baseball great, and all blacks would get in line. What was critical, that's why I keep telling y'all, study your history. In the middle of the campaign, Martin Luther King and others who had led the Montgomery boycott, they had succeeded in standing up for Rosa Parks. Martin Luther King, after the Montgomery boycott, they don't write about this a lot, Minister Richard, was indicted for stealing the money from his nonprofit. Y'all don't read about that. They accused him of income tax fraud, saying he took the money from the Montgomery Improvement Association and indicted him, am I right, Hardy? And put him on trial in Montgomery, Alabama. Because of the parole, and he went and did something that they said violated that, they put Martin Luther King in jail in the mid-60s, rode him in the middle of the night, and his wife and them did not know where they drove him to and was afraid they were going to kill him. It became a cause célèbre throughout the black church world. And Robert Kennedy, who was the brother of the candidate for President John Kennedy, told his brother that you ought to call Mrs. King and express your concern. In the middle of the National Baptist Convention, Adam Creighton Powell came out and said, the Democrat, who Powell was a Democrat, John Kennedy talked to Mrs. King, and we have located what jail Dr. King is in, and he's fine. At the convention, blacks start taking off their Nixon Republican buttons and became Democrats. Now tell that story for 2 reasons. One, we were not born Republican or Democrat. We were born like everybody else, that we would go with whatever served our interests. The reason we went Republican, we felt Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation, even though we did more to free Lincoln than he did to free us, but that's another Saturday morning. Because if they hadn't freed the slaves and we joined the Union Army, it would have been a different result. We went with Kennedy and eventually Johnson because the Democrats spoke towards civil rights and voting rights. We got the Civil Rights Act of 64 under Johnson, Voting Rights Act of 65 under Johnson. Now why did I say that? Adam Creighton Powell, Shirley Chisholm, who I was our youth director for president, all of them were in the Democratic Party because that's the way that party never was all the way progressive, but it was just better than the alternative. Progressives came in the Democratic Party and tried to move it more toward us, and that has been a fight we've always had. Shirley Chisholm, when I was 18 years old, I was youth director of her campaign when she ran for president. Shirley Chisholm had a battle of both racism and misogyny. What do I mean by that? She had to fight whites that were saying, who does she think she is? Running for president. And black men that said, who does she think she is? 1972, there was the National Black Political Convention in Gary, Indiana. I went, Percy Sutton paid my way. We didn't have no money. My mother was on welfare. He paid my way to go. I was the youngest one on the platform committee. At the National Black Political Convention, Shirley Chisholm was running for president. She was not even invited to be at the convention. I'm talking about the Ungawa.
Tell him, man.
Super black. But did not want a black woman that was running for president to come to the convention. Some of the elected officials, some of the then Black Caucus members had already made a deal to endorse George McGovern against her. I was in the room in Gary when they said she couldn't talk. She couldn't be invited. I was in the room back in Brooklyn and watched Shirley Chisholm cry, saying that I don't understand why we can't get up off each other's back.
That's it. Tell him, man.
This woman hit the streets in Buffalo, never was a part of the inner crowd, never was a part of the establishment. She did it the old organizing way. And I'm saying to you all that watching me in Buffalo, that if she ran a fair race and run the Democratic nomination, don't let nobody come and finance you against your interest. Now, I know her opponent. I ain't never had a problem with her. But fair is fair. And right is right. And we fought too hard to become like the folks we fought against. And this ain't never about us. Let me tell you something. Everybody in here was born, right? Ain't nobody dropped out here from space. I know they had SpaceX. Ain't none of y'all come back on this SpaceX thing. Y'all was born, right? Well, then if you was born, let me tell you a news flash. You gonna die. I don't know when, but you leaving here. My grandmother used to tell young men wanting to date my mother at a certain hour and say, you ain't got to go home, but you leaving here. But I'm telling y'all, I don't know where you going, but I know you leaving here, and so am I. So don't get so caught up in yourself. And don't get so caught up in your career. And don't get so caught up in your position that you think it all is about you. You do the best you can in your time, and you let the next generation pick up and move on. Nothing worse than people that act like God created the heavens and earth for them. And that everybody's supposed to serve you. Then you become a servant for others. That's why the Bible says the greatest is the servant. And that's why some of our leadership becomes obsolete, because they don't serve nobody. I remember 10 years ago, and about 10 years and 2 weeks ago, India, I started doing Politics Nation on MSNBC. Had a radio show syndicate. People talk about, oh, he ain't gonna be in Harlem now every Saturday. He ain't gonna be marching no more. I've done every Saturday here.
Yes.
I did Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, all the way to George Floyd. Because I did not start in the movement at 12 to be a TV host or radio host. I started to be part of a movement. Those things are platforms. I know who I am. And I'm going to keep doing what I do. In line with that, as we watched and saw the pictures of these Border Patrol men with whips in their hand, on horseback, backing up and corralling people from Haiti seeking refuge in the United States. We started doing Zoom calls and saying that, well, what are we going to do? And got the White House on the phone. Everybody was not answering and saying things. And that's when I said, well, I don't know about nobody else, but we need to go down there. And one, stand with our people. Because let me tell you something, I didn't say that casually. They are our people and we are their people. You sit up there acting like we all got here by design of our parents. Like your great grandmama got on the internet and took a cruise to Alabama or Mississippi or Haiti or Trinidad. We were all slave traded and put on ships, slave ships. And in the Atlantic, some ended in Brazil, some landed in Haiti, some landed in Trinidad, some landed in Mississippi, some landed in South Carolina. It was the currents of the ocean. It was not somebody made a package deal for you to come to America. So don't you divide yourself when you were united and bonded in being enslaved. It's like if I took you right now and kidnapped you and your family and brought y'all to my house to serve me free. And I put you in the living room and your daughter in the bedroom and your son in the dining room and locked y'all in. And y'all come out a year later talking about I'm a living room Negro, I'm a bedroom Negro, I'm a dining room Negro. No, you all my Negroes that work for me. So all this about, I don't know about the West Indians. First of all, we all are former slaves of Africa, and Indians, the reason they call the West Indians is Columbus was looking for India, went west rather than east, and rather than say I'm lost, he named them West Indians. They're Africans in the Caribbean. So I said, I'm going to go down there. We need to go and stand. Now, the background is, if y'all remember, some of y'all do, a couple years ago when they were putting young Mexicans in these little caves in Texas and was locking them up. I went down there then. I went down, Minister Kirsten, John, for all of us went down and stood against what they were doing to those young Mexicans. So this ain't just me going now. I went then, and I'm certain it was going this time. People started saying, don't go. I said, we need to get a delegation of ministers and civil rights leaders. Reverend Freddie Haynes, Pastor Friendship West, who's on our national board, said, I'll go. Reverend Jamal Bryant, pastor of New Birth Baptist Church in Atlanta, called me and said, when we going? Before I could call him. Jennifer Jones Austin, attorney Jennifer Jones Austin, who heads the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies here in New York, daughter of my pastor and mentor, the late Dr. William Jones. She said, I'm going. I called the former ambassador from the United States of South Africa, who is Haitian, Patrick Gaspard. He said, I'll go and interpret for you. And we built up a delegation to go. Then the night before we go, the mayor down there called and said there are threats. Y'all should cancel, don't come. And I told them, I don't know what y'all doing, but I'm going. And they arranged for the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Maracas, to get on a Zoom call with me. And he said on the Zoom call that they would make sure that I can get in and pray and do whatever is necessary for the refugees. I call them refugees. We flew down there and got to our, when we landed at the airport, did press conference. Went out there, and let me tell you something. I've been to Rwanda, I've been to Sudan, I've been all over Haiti and other places when they had emergencies. Nothing prepares you for watching just mass of people that are living in the elements. There's no place for them to sleep. There's no place for them to bathe. The same Andre the chef that worked with us, with Katrina Jefferson feeding people here during COVID, has set up food bank down there to feed them. And they set up medical stations for them. But other than that, they either build little tents over themselves, most of them out in the element. There were still about 1,200 people there when I was there Thursday. And as I was allowed to go to the fence and started talking to them, and Patrick Gaspard interpreting for me, I asked them, why are you here? And they said that our president was killed. President of Haiti was killed. The government crumbled. There's nothing but gang warfare going. We are afraid. I said, do you think you want to go home? No. We don't want to go home. And I talked to several of them, led them in prayer. Went back to all our out-press conference. They had some Trump guys heckling and carrying on. But they don't understand that I know how to heckle. They was off. Because you're supposed to heckle. They need to give me some heckling lessons down there. Because they messed up. But anyway, somebody asked me at the press conference, they said, well, why does the United States have to let them in? One, you're supposed to represent. And you're supposed to say that you are a country that claims that you welcome those that seek refuge. But then let's go to the history. I thought I'd do a little research this morning. Let me tell you something. Haiti was rich in tradition even before Spain conquered Haiti. If you go back even before the 1690s, when there was the conquering of Haiti, they saw Haiti because of the richness and wealth that could be built from it. In 1697, the Spanish and the French signed a treaty which gave France the western third of the island. What is now Haiti and the Dominican Republic is on one island. Half of it Spain occupied. The other half France occupied. The half that France occupied became known as Haiti. Now, it started being known as Saint Dominique. It produced 60% of the world's coffee, 40% of the sugar imported by France and Britain. It was one of the most profitable French colonies in the world. Y'all got that?
Yes,
So this wasn't about just looking at the ocean. This was about sugar and coffee and profit for France. How did they make a profit? Same way they made a profit in the United States. They had free unpaid labor. Anybody can get rich if you don't have to pay the labor.
That's it. Come on.
Unlike what succeeded here, the slaves, the enslaved, rebelled against slavery in Haiti in 1791 and ran the French off the island, led by Toussaint L'Ouverture. Napoleon, supposed to be the great warrior, got beat in Haiti.
That's it. Come on, man.
And that was one thing they never forgave Haiti for. But let me get to the U.S. part. From 1868 with Andrew Johnson as president, all the way to William Howard Taft in 1910, all the way to 1911, all of these were manipulative use of the United States taking over power in Haiti, loaning money to the Haitian government and letting them default, which gave them more power, and they manipulated the leadership of Haiti since the 1700s.
That's right.
So when you hear them talking about how Haiti is the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere, they're not poor by some osmosis. They're not poor by lineage. They were broken. And a lot of the breaking was done by the United States of America. It was the U.S. that propped up dictators that exploited the people in Haiti while they lived in palatial homes and enjoyed the fat of the land with the protection and alliance of the United States government.
Break it down.
So they have a right to come here because you went there and exploited them. Just like many said that you've got to give refuge to the Afghan people that helped the U.S., well then that's fine. Then give refuge to those that were exploited in their homeland, just a few miles from Florida, that need help. If you talk about asylum, I asked the Secretary of Homeland Security, if you got a country whose president was assassinated, the chief prosecutor said the prime minister is a suspect, then you get an earthquake and a tropical storm that destroyed your home. If that don't qualify for asylum, tell me then what asylum means.
Come on, man.
You got folk right here that ain't went through none of that you gave asylum. So either you will have one set of rules, or we going to call your administration, who you wouldn't be there if it wasn't for us. You would not be there if we hadn't lined up and voted like we never voted before. We are not going to let you sit there and ignore us. My name ain't Al Biden, it's Sharpton. My name ain't Al Schumer, it's Sharpton. I didn't owe you my vote. I gave you my vote so you can hear what I got to say. Don't act like I'm your boy. I'm a grown man. At the same time that we fight hate, we get a call. Senator Cory Booker, Congresswoman Karen Bass, that Senator Tim Scott, a lot of y'all watching South Carolina, said that we can do the George Floyd policing bill. But we can't get the police associations to agree with qualified immunity. Qualified immunity means that the policemen and the police locals are liable civilly as well as the criminal procedure. What does that mean? That means that if you are a victim of police misconduct, then not only does the victim's family get to pay the city, or get to sue the city, they get to sue the policeman and his commanders. Why do y'all want to do that? Because if a policeman knows that if he draws his gun and shoots unarmed people and is found liable, he can lose his house and his car. His wife gonna tell him, you be careful and courteous today when you go to work. But if they feel that if they err, that the city will pay the tab, there is no incentive for them to deal with the training and what they must do. Y'all with me so far? So we got into this season where cities started paying victims rather than giving justice. Well, there ain't gonna be no indictment, but we give the family millions of dollars. Well, the family should have millions of dollars because you took away an earner from them, but that's not justice. And they gave a settlement to the Garner family, gave a settlement George Floyd's family, Breonna Taylor's family, but we wanted justice. That's why we stayed on this case till they convicted Chauvin. But now, Chauvin was one of how many cases? You need to change the laws and have federal law. And you cannot have federal law after George Floyd's name that excuses the liability of police. So we supported Cory Booker and our sister Congresswoman Karen Bass saying we will not stay in the committee if we take qualified immunity off, and they walked out. And we supported that. And we're saying that we are not going to participate in a sham. Biden needs to give what he can on executive orders, and that'll hold till next year's election. And then we're going to put in a Senate and a Congress that will give us a George Floyd Policing Act with qualified immunity. That's why I tell you, y'all can't come to one rally and it's over. This is a long distance fight. Minister Richard, they had the Montgomery bus boycott, December 1955. It was a year. They walked. Theme there was they walked with dignity rather than ride in shame. For 1 year they walked. Y'all go to one march every 3 years in Washington and act like you ate Philip Randolph. They walked for 1 year. And even then, it took another 8 years to get the Civil Rights Act of '64. We talk about the Civil Rights Act like everything happened. No, they struggled to get there. It took years of work. It took grassroots work of Gloria Richardson and others that were grassroots organizers that nobody know their names. Everybody knew Rosa's name, but they didn't know Ella Baker's name. That's the tradition Walton come out of. Movements are from the unnamed, the righteous troublemakers. They march and know their face ain't gonna be on the news that night, but they march anyhow. That stand up and fight even though their name will never be in the New York Times. But they fight anyhow. They get on buses 4 in the morning and ride to Washington, wherever we got to go to raise hell. That's who build movement. You proper talking, super educated, refined Negroes with your home in the suburb, with your summer house and you're in the city house. You are the results of the movement. You were not the movement. We made you. You didn't make us. I remember one year, and I'm not against black being successful. I just want y'all to give credit where you got it from. Amen. Don't get Negro amnesia. Act like you so smart. They've been Negro smart before you, but they didn't have the opportunities you had. And you got those opportunities from some unlettered, uneducated, rough-edged people that fought to open the door for you to show how smart you are. I had a friend invited me, Martha's Vineyard, got this huge mansion, wanted to show me how he lived up in Martha's Vineyard. I walked around and said, I'm glad to see what I helped y'all buy. I'm not impressed with that unless you're going to use it to expand. Unless you're going to pay the debt to those that open the door for you. Then you are unworthy of where you at. Nobody woke up one morning and said, let's be nice to Negroes. People fought and suffered and died for her to be able to be mayor of Buffalo. This ain't something that you are owed. Something we struggle for. I remember when we used to go to Buffalo, we had to deal with mobsters, thugs, gangsters. Y'all like watching mafia movies? That was real, that wasn't in the movies. These families that control New York City had interest in Buffalo. You talk too loud, you be sailing down Niagara Falls and not sightseeing. We didn't go through that for you to come now playing cheap political games with our sisters. Come on. Never you. To act like this was about your career than rather about the sanctity of our people. Well, right now I thought me and you was good. We are good. That's why I'm going to tell you some good stuff. So we're not going to go with this George Floyd bill as is. We're going to force this to keep qualified immunity. Then they come this week with the Freedom to Vote Act. Now, if you remember about 2 weeks before our march, August 28th, for voting rights, Martin Luther King III and Andrea Waters King and I went and met with Joe Manchin and all of the senators. And Manchin said he wanted to draft a bill that would replace Senate Bill 1 that they did not support. Come back with a bill that was half decent, covered a lot of what we wanted. Said that he can get the Republicans to go with it. Well, they didn't. We waited a week. Not only he couldn't get 10, couldn't tell us 2. So now I've called on, and National Action Network has called on. We're going to deal with this on Politics Nation tonight. the president and others to call for the vote and to have the Democrats stand up and say, either let us have a carve out around the filibuster or end the filibuster. They said, well, you don't want to end the filibuster. Suppose Republicans come back and they get it. Well, if y'all treat us right, the Republicans won't come back. That is crazy. We must have the right to vote protected. We got the constitutional right, but it is the protection of the right. With all them changing all of these laws and all of these election laws, don't forget the Voting Rights Act. I broke that down for y'all last week. The Voting Rights Act did not give you the right to vote. The Constitution gave you that, 15th Amendment. The Voting Rights Act protected them, protected you from being subjected to restrictions or regulations in certain states and 2 counties in New York that robs you of being able to vote because they set up state election laws that would restrict and prohibit you from doing so. That's what the Voting Rights Act is. And that's what we must get past, even if we have to bust the filibuster. Everybody watching me around the country need to call, email, write your senator and tell them that you want them to vote for the Freedom to Vote Act so we can pass this legislation. It is imperative that we deal with the voting rights and deal with the rights of those in terms of police reform. Now, let me go back. I'm getting ready to wind down. Let me go back to our faith-based leaders that keep jawboning and not really saying what needs to be said. We are not representing what we should in the church world. If you see what is going on from Haiti to Harlem and don't open your mouth.
Come on, Rev.
There is a difference between entertaining people and in leading people as a shepherd to give them the information to fight and struggle for liberation. Many of y'all that are watching me read the Bible, many of y'all here today read the Bible or the Quran or whatever you believe. Tell me the greatest sermon that Moses preached. Somebody got it?
Sermon on the Mount.
Sermon on the Mount was Jesus. All right. So if Moses didn't make history, first 5 books of the Bible was Moses. It was not because Moses knew how to preach or hoop on Sunday morning. Moses was a liberation fighter.
That's right.
That fought against Egyptian bondage. And God used him as a vessel to fight slavery. That's why Moses is in the Bible. Moses is not in the Bible because he got up there saying, and Lord. That's good entertainment. But that ain't liberation. Hooping is a style. And that's all right if you're going to use that to energize people to fight. But if I'm living in substandard housing, if my child is going to poor quality schools, if I'm dealing with an income that don't meet the minimum wage, I don't need you entertaining me on Sunday. I need you to inform me, organize me, and energize me to fight to change my conditions, or I need you to sit down and shut up and let somebody that will stand up. Well, Reverend, everybody can't do that. Then don't take the position. I know this ain't for everybody. Then leave it alone. But don't stand up and represent yourself to be something that you're not going to live up to. Every major figure in the Bible, God used them to deal with the time in which they lived. That's why when Moses was called up to the mountain, and the Bible said he saw the burning bush, and Moses said, when God told him, I want you to go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And Moses said, I'm not the one, Minister Richard, that should do it. I've got a stammering tongue. I shudder when I speak. God didn't need an orator. He wasn't sending him there to speak. He was sending him there to lead a liberation struggle. And some of our best leaders were not our poetic orators. But some of our poetic orators have not led nobody. I got Terrence Blanchard on my show tonight. He's the first black to compose, gonna be at the Met. You go to the Met for entertainment. You go to the church to be instructed and inspired toward being free. Otherwise, what is the function of the church for?
That's right.
Well, we're there to worship. Worship what? If you're not going to worship a God that wants you to be all that he created you to be.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
Got a friend coming to talk about, Reverend Allen, he says, I would expect you build a big, huge edifice. No, I want a storefront on the ground that people can roll in here, and no matter how much they dress or not dress, I want people to feel comfortable. Y'all got these big cathedrals, folk got to get up, take an hour to get dressed, put all their makeup on, get their hat right and all that uncomfortable stuff. Have a fashion show church. You know, I knew folk growing up, when I grew up in church started at 11 o'clock. They would get there 10 minutes after 11, 12 after 11, so they could strut down the aisle, show you what they got on. They'd be outside in the car waiting to make their entrance. Reducing service to a fashion show. Ain't no use going to service if you're not going to leave and be of service. Church should be like a gas station where you come and get enough fuel to run and do something all week. But if you ain't going to do nothing, if you ain't going to fight the fights, if you're not going to organize, if you're not going to go where others won't go, then you don't need to fill up your tank because you ain't going nowhere. I tell my daughters, we go to certain churches and people be shouting, carrying on even before the order service. They even call the church to order, and they hallelujah, just jumping up and down, swinging from the chandelier, doing splits. Dominique and Ashley thought they had more Holy Ghost than us. I know they just had a lot of backed up gas they never ran out. If you struggle, if you organize, if you help God's people, you need a refill every Sunday. But if you ain't ran no gas down, you don't need a refill. Don't be quoters of the word, be doers of the word. That's why And I'll let you go. That's why when I got down there to Texas this week, and they said, Remy Al, are you here as President of National Action Network? Or are you here as host of Politics Nation? Are you here from your radio show? I said, no, I'm here as a Christian preacher. So why would you say that? Because there was a parable that Jesus said.
Come on, Rev.
So there was a man that was traveling down a road. And another man came and robbed him and beat him and took everything from him. And as he lay bloodied and beaten and robbed on the side of the road, as he looked up, barely being able to see, a Jewish priest went by. That what the book said? Man of his religion, a leader in that religion. He saw the man and stepped off and kept going. Then Jesus said a Levite came, one of his own race, one of his own background, one of them that said, oh God, my brother. But when he saw his brother laying there suffering, bleeding and robbed, he left him laying there. But then Jesus said, this ain't Al telling the story, Jesus told us. Said a man of another race never told us his religion. He was a Samaritan. He came by and stopped and said, what can I do to help my brother? And he got him and put him together, put him in an inn and took care of him. And Jesus called him the Good Samaritan. When my day comes, when I leave this earth, there are going to be a lot of things they can say I did wrong. They're going to be able to chronicle mistakes I've made and decisions that were wrong. But I want somebody to say that when my people were laying in the mud in Texas, that I didn't look the other way. I stopped by the side of the road and tried to be a good Samaritan. Others may ignore him, but I'm going to do the best I can. I ain't got the money others got. I don't have to use edifice got, but I can stand up. That's why I love that song. What do you do when you've done all you can? Seems like it's never enough. Stand. 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 Sister Walton, I know it gets rough. I know they're vicious. I know they're threatening, but stand up anyhow. I know sometimes it looks like no matter what you do, there's never enough, but stand up anyhow. Because God will hold you up if you stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up.
What do you do when you've done all you can and seem like it's never enough? What do you say when your friends turn away and you're
maybe someone here today that has come to rallies or have seen us on television or hear us on radio, but never joined the National Action Network. We have various committees you can work with. We have something for everybody to do, or you may have ideas that we never thought of how to do it. You can become a part of it. All you have to do is come down to me right now and let us sign you up if you're here in our auditorium. If you're listening on WLIB, you can go right now to www.nationalactionnetwork.net, www.nationalactionnetwork.net, and join online. Or you can call the toll-free number, 1-877-626-4651, 1-877-626-4651. But if you're here and want to join here, come to me right now. Come on, everybody sing. Come on. Everybody sing. Everybody sing. Sing it like you mean. Sing it like you mean. Sing it like you mean. Everybody sing. Everybody sing. Everybody sing. One more time. One more time. One more time. All right. We're going last Saturday. Ashley had me watching social media. We had about 16,000 people watching online, about 50,000 on radio. But we had about 100 people join just from being on the broadcast. But we follow that up. That's why we have all these committees. Follow up, you got to organize. A lot of folks join and just be in the moment. You got to turn the moments into movements. All right, I'm going to raise our offering. Y'all know I was very friendly with Michael Jackson. In fact, he came here one Saturday morning, spoke. Some of y'all that were been in NAN a long time was here when Michael spoke. And I stay in touch with the family. I talked to Janet this week. And I did not know, Brother Hardy, until this morning, what they did with Michael's jacket, till I saw Tyrone Richardson this morning. I got to turn you into the Jackson estate. He got on Michael's jacket and Kanye's sneakers. All right, I'm gonna leave that alone. We're gonna raise our offering. I need everybody to give to the best of your ability. Now let me tell you, for you that are visiting, we're gonna raise the offering. I'm gonna take on the new members, and then everybody always fist bumps at the end. I'll stand here, you want to fist bump with me. If you have an issue or crisis, I will give you to the team so they can do it, and they'll give it to us. You do not have a meeting with me. So don't come up here and talk about Rev's supposed to meet with me. You have no meeting with me. We have a fist bump and move on. I'll tell you right now. I'll be glad to schedule something, but you have no meeting with me right now. Let's be real clear. So don't give those that are part of the team a hard time talking about you talk to somebody that don't exist that told you that you got to meet with me. You do not have a meeting with me today, all right? Folks be just telling me, just lying. Who you talking to? I talked to Joe. I ain't got no Joe here. All right. And wear your face mask covered up. Brother Hardy and I are above the age of taking chances. My mother come from Alabama. They had on TV the other day, they had more deaths than births in Alabama. I said, that might be lineage. Let me put my mask on. I almost slept in my mask. Some of y'all don't believe in masks and vaccination good. That's y'all. I'm gonna take everything they got. Try not to get COVID. I'm gonna take whatever they got. I don't know what it is, and I don't, I told y'all 2 weeks ago, God told me, I just don't know what they sticking me in the arm with a needle. And he had tattoos up and down both arms. I said, well, do you know what's in the needles? You got them tattoos? Well, I didn't think about that. Anybody with a tattoo ain't got no problem getting a needle. That ain't your birthmark. All right, I'm just talking so y'all can get your money. I know some of y'all hide your money in undisclosed places. I'm giving you a chance to dig and get it. All right, I'm trying to behave. I got Sister Walton here and Mr. Richard. I don't want them thinking I'm uncouth and all, so I'll be nice, Katrina. I won't talk too crazy. I need about 10 people that can give $100 or more to come first, quickly. Guardians, $100. The Welcome Committee, $100. Minister Gilchrist, $100. Shanita, $100. Sister Shanita. Brother Jacques, $100. Come on, I need about 2 more hundreds. Give me some $100 music. That's about 40. Give me some $100 music. All right, give me 50s. 50s. You can do $50.
Here's your $100.
I thought so, Ponder. I was about to call you up. All right. All right. Brother David, $50. Ponder gave $100. Our political